right, guys, welcome to another episode of So This is the World Christian Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle. This is your other host, Jasmine. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you liked last week's format where we just talked about one topic and went into comments. We're going to kind of be doing that again this week. But before we hop into it, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you never miss when we drop a video. And let's go ahead and get into it. So this week, we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be starting out talking about Sneako and then Pearl, and then we're going to go over the comments, and that'd be it. That'd be this week's podcast. Basically, what we want to talk about with Sneako today, if you guys don't know, about a year ago, I would say, somewhere around this time last year, he decided to start practicing Islam, which was not a surprise to anybody because it just seemed like he was doing whatever Andrew Tate was doing, you know. That's really what it seemed like, because honestly, prior to him announcing he was going to practice it, I remember another YouTuber who goes by the name of Young Don Reborn. He went out to New York for like the weekend to like kick it with Sneako since they were buddies, and he was reading the Bible to him and preaching verses and stuff, and you could just tell on the live streams if you watch them at that point, Sneako was not feeling it. He seemed over it. He's just like, bruh, I don't want to go to church with you. I just want to drink this alcohol, smoke the cigar, do these live streams. I don't want to join Christianity. And the next thing you know, Andrew Tate's like, I think I'm going to join the Islamic Brotherhood and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be Muslim now. And next thing you know, Sneako's like, hey, guys, I too am going to be Muslim and practice this Islamic faith. And I knew it wasn't going to last, and we were pretty spot on. So what we're going to do, we're going to actually play the first 2 minutes from What Do You Meme's latest video talking about it, which actually gives like a very quick breakdown. And then we'll jump into it ourselves and talk about it.
You might recall the time when the famous streamer Sneako started raging while watching my video about his conversion to Islam.
This is what I'm so sick about, these fucking bot tubers.
But now it seems that he's raging once again, but only this time he's no longer doing it in defense of Islam, but because of Islam. This all started during his recent live streams when he started complaining more and more about all of the things that he's now expected to give up since converting to Islam. A few weeks ago, he was joined by fellow Muslim Myron from the Fresh and Fit podcast when the topic of real estate came up. Once Sneako realized that paying interest on a house was haram, which simply means forbidden in Arabic, this led Sneako to start listing off all of his frustrations with Islamic rules.
Having fun as an adult is so hard without alcohol. Like, what do you do? Like, you're like a robot. Like, you don't do, like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, how much stuff do I have to give up? Pork, fun, alcohol, women, gambling, music, about everything. I can't even invest my money. No.
You can invest, but you can't invest it into things that involve usury. But any real investment typically deals with interest. Unfortunately, that's just how it is.
They're saying credit cards are haram.
Yeah.
What the
But here's where things start to get more interesting. Sneako built a large portion of his Rumble audience based on his conversion to Islam. So, of course, this has led to him building an audience that's heavily interested and invested in his Islamic journey. And just when the Muslims in his chat started to believe that them and Sneako were finally getting on the same page, he made it crystal clear that they weren't. The persistence of his Muslim followers encouraging him to act in accordance publicly with his faith has led to Sneako saying things like this.
We get it. Porn is bad. Haram. Don't do that. It's a sin. Does trannies. Like, oh my God, we get it. Can I go outside now? My Rumble comments, all that's like, Sneako's hanging out with these. Sneako betrayed us. Why is he eating dinner with these people? What? You should be yelling at whores with Myron right now. No, I'm gonna react to the music. You betrayed us. Get a life, bro. Get a life. I'm done. I don't want to be in this. I thought we were on the same page. Bro, I was at the mall talking about moving into a content creator house with some of my friends. And then people are messaging me like, Sneako, move into an Islamic learning house. Bro, what the f***?
Bomba.
No, bro. Like, I'll go pray Jamal. I'll read my Quran. I'll talk to scholars. I am not moving into an Islamic. You people want me to move into a mosque. You want me to sleep in the mosque now. And it's like, he's grifting. I'm not grifting. I just want to have a fucking home. I don't want to live in a mosque. Get off of my dick. Holy
Okay. Well.
Whoa. So what do you think?
I'm not shocked in the slightest, especially it seemed like outside the Andrew Tate thing, right? Because we already knew it's like you're just doing this because Tate's doing this and you're literally just copycatting everything he's doing. One of the main things he always kept mentioning in the beginning was like, oh, I can have multiple women and multiple wives if I'm a Muslim. And it's like, that's technically not how that really works. Like you have to get like special permission if you want to start having more than like one wife. This isn't just like, I got a girl and another girl and another girl and another. And yeah, I'm not shocked.
Yeah. How much familiarity do you have with Sneako as a streamer anyway? Because I don't really know like what he's all about other than I think he's Red Pill.
He is.
So is this like really like part of his brand to act like this?
Well, so I watched him I used to watch him stream like well before I became a Christian. So for a minute. Technically, so I have to correct myself before some Sneako fan comes in here and is like, he's not Red Pill anymore. But yeah, recently he's also hopped off the Red Pill train. So he doesn't, his whole idea for that, he's like, we get it. You know, you're talking about the same thing all the time. You're stuck in the matrix. There's only so much you could talk about that. It doesn't change. Right. So him mentioning that content creator house, he's now been hanging out a lot with like FouseyTube, Aiden Ross, some guy named Neo. I don't even know who that is. I know the other two just based on their longevity, streaming and YouTube and all that, but I don't have no clue who Neon is and all these other people. But you want to do a content creator house with them, and I'm just like, it seems like you just keep bouncing around, my man, from like one thing to the next, just because it's like consistent money. And I understand like we're on the internet, so a lot of people just keep changing and going with the waves, but
and that's an interesting way to put it, going with the waves.
Yeah,
because the way that one of the biggest complaints that I have with, you know, people who call themselves Christians are people who go with the waves, and as culture changes, so does their theology, and that's not the greatest. But when it comes to being rooted, I don't think he was ever really ready to be rooted in Islamic faith. It was another trend for him.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for him, that is not how they see it. They
Not
are very
at all.
serious about their faith, and where the, you know, faith of Christianity, if you're following the Bible, if you're following scripture and you're really following Jesus, there's a lot of grace and a lot of forgiveness. And if somebody goes off the beaten path, like let's say Sneako became a Christian and now he's wanting to sin and he's being, you know, belligerent about his faith, the response for Christians would be, we should really pray for this guy, and like in love. I don't know if that's how the followers of the Islamic faith do things.
So just going off comments, because I have no clue in real life what they think, but just going off comments, I did see some that were just like, we need to pray for our fellow brother, and then they'll put, I'm about to butcher all these words, like inshallah or ashallah. They say something like that at the end, whatever that means, right? So I'm assuming to them, it's like how we would pray for somebody who's going through it at the moment. And then the other side of it is just like, I knew he was a phony from the beginning. And they're just like raging, because you have a lot of Muslims that rage at Andrew Tate because he doesn't do everything correctly and properly. So you do have some that like give the grace. They're like, oh, they're new. We should like, you know, be more considerate to them and properly guide them. But I feel like at this point in time, I feel like it would probably be easier to guide Andrew than it would be Sneako, because it just seems like he's young, he has money, because he's like 25 or something, or 24, something like that. Like, he keeps doing like the e-date videos with the girls, talking to porn stars, like we can make our own private videos at my house and stuff. He just wants to live like a sin debauchery lifestyle. Like you saw at the beginning of the clips, he was like, how can you be an adult and have fun without alcohol? It's like, Sneako, it's very easy. Majority of my life I didn't drink. So like, you can have fun without drinking. It's not complicated or hard.
And you could tell the other guy in the video too. The one from
Myron.
Yeah, he was like, haha, yeah. Sinning is so crazy. Like his body language was really uncomfortable. He's like, no.
Because Myron's Muslim, and I don't know if he acts like that, because I know on what's the other guy is Fresh or whatever. He's always at the clubs with women and stuff, but you never really see Myron with him. So I would assume, I don't fully know, but I would assume Myron practices the faith to a certain degree where he doesn't do a lot of that stuff, where Sneako he can't get with it. And it's very interesting, because I remember like last year in the very beginning, he would tell Christians, and I think John mentioned it on his channel, like in a different video. He would tell Christians like, oh, you're going to pray to a man, and you're going to do this and do that. And it's like, but you're praying to Muhammad, who's a man. So it's the same. I don't even understand. But he don't really read his Quran like that either. So it just seems like once he heard all the rules, he's just like, ugh, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. And it's kind of sad, because I mean, like I said, my knowledge on Islamic faith is quite limited, but it sounds very legalistic. It sounds like very serious consequences for not following the faith the way you're supposed to follow the faith.
Yeah.
And I mean, I understand his wanting to rebel from that, because I probably would want to as well. But then again, I just find there's a lot more freedom and grace in Christianity, and it's never about, you can never do enough to win over Jesus's love.
Yeah.
And I just feel for the guy, honestly.
Yeah. But all that rage we're seeing. So if we want to talk statistics, Islam is one of the fastest growing religions, just statistic wise. It is. A lot of people are coming into it because they see how it is. Like, you disrespect Muslims, that's your life. Like, or, I'm not saying you're going to die every time or something, but they take that very seriously, that you're going to get beat up or something for disrespecting them on a high level. And I can't remember the country, but like literally just within the past week or two, somebody did like a book burning of a Quran out in the public. And you want to talk about like a city riot? Like, they went off just because that one person did that. So they do not play about their faith. And a lot of young men are seeing this and they're just like, oh yeah, that's the religion I want to be with. Why would I want to be some Christian who's all like hippie lovey-dovey and
wishy-washy?
Yeah, so you see that. So it has a very high intake for the religion. What they don't like to talk about is that most people leave within the first 5 years because they don't like how he raged out on all the rules and stuff. That's just kind of how it is. And it goes deeper than that too. I've seen videos where like when you really start studying underneath the I think it's called like a sheik or something. I could have the terminology wrong, but you start studying under the guy and he'll tell his like disciple, I'm gonna just say disciples, whoever learning underneath him, he'll tell them like, hey, this is what the Quran says, but this isn't what we're gonna say out in public when we defend it. Which in itself, when you hear that, you're just kind of like, what? Why wouldn't I say that? Because they know like certain things makes it look bad. And I think in one of Sneako's live streams, I think that actually happened when he was talking to one of those people. And Sneako didn't question it at all. At least on the live stream, he didn't question it. I have no idea what he did off camera. But I remember watching that and I'm just like, bro, like that's a whole red flag in itself. Because us reading the Bible, you know, we're not told by anybody like, hey, this is what's in the Bible. But, you know, if you have to defend this on the open, do not mention this. It's like we are never told that.
No, that's kind of wild.
Yeah. So, hey, that's
I mean, it sort of reminds me a little bit of like trying to justify unpopular doctrines like homosexuality or like,
yeah.
you know, something like that where it's like, but I think they genuinely believe that they can, you know, justify it with scripture or whatever, where it's like a theological difference, where it sounds to me like what you described is more of like, we know it says this, but we're gonna say this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So it's weird. But because of that, like I said, you may have a high uptick of numbers rising, but there's also like a large amount of people that drop off within those first 5 years. People might want to think about that. Like if that's a religion you are looking at, you know, I'm not gonna dog them out or anything because everybody can make their own mind up for what they want to do in life. But if that's the way you're gonna go, do some proper research before jumping in it. Because I don't want you looking like Sneako did, where he's just Mance was stressed. It's like, I can't eat pork, I can't gamble, I can't invest my money. It's like, bro, calm down.
Yeah, I don't know. And I get it, right? Like some of the like the money thing or the I don't know, the pork thing. I get the frustration, but some of it's like, oh, porn is bad. Like when he's like, "What? I get it. Porn is bad." And what was the other thing he said? Porn is bad. And,
porn. They were
transgenders or something.
Yeah, they were like, you should be yelling at whores with Myron on Fresh and Fit. It's like,
Yeah.
what? Like that's
but
crazy.
Simultaneously he's trying to elicit pornography with porn stars and you know, solicit, I should say. But
yeah,
it to me it sounds like he's not ready to have any faith right now, and I hope
not
that
at all.
he gives up his hedonism because it's really just it's empty. It's very empty.
Yeah. People don't understand, like, he may think that's fun. I don't really watch Abba and Preach anymore, but I remember one of the last conversations he had with Abba before they really became like enemies or beefing or whatever you want to call it. I remember Abba telling him, he's just like, at some point, man, like banging all these chicks is just empty. There's more to life than that. He's like, at some point, you're gonna want like a family and kids and stuff. And he's just like, oh man, you just saying that because you're old and your balls are dried up, man. Like, me banging chicks forever. And he's just like, no, you're not. Like, you may think this is fun now at some point. He's like, yeah, I can't cuss, but he's like, at some point, vagina's vagina. Like, it doesn't matter what girl it's attached to, it's the same at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that just shows the level of immaturity.
Yeah, it is.
And the lust issue.
Yeah. Like you said, where he's at, he's not ready for any faith. Doesn't matter. I know some Christians are just kind of like, you should come over this way now. It's like, he's not ready for anything. He kind of needs to get himself together first. And I know he was ripping on the red pill recently and how he doesn't want to be part of that community anymore. But it's like, I don't agree with everything red pill says, but that whole motivational, like, get your life together aspect, he probably needs to run that back and maybe focus on certain aspects of that. Leave women alone for a good hot second. And then once your life is together, then maybe think about like, okay, maybe I'm ready for Islam now, or Christianity or Hindu or whatever, wherever life takes him at that point. But it sounds like he needs to get it together in all aspects.
Yeah, definitely. And when it comes to like Christianity specifically too, because of the the transforming power of Christ and his love.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to clean yourself up first, but you do have to be ready to submit. And I think that's where he's struggling. He doesn't
Yeah.
want to submit to any god but himself.
Yeah.
That's if he was willing to like get to, and it could be that he has to get to rock bottom first, because
Maybe.
when you get to rock bottom, that's when you have nowhere to look but up. And right now it
That's
seems
true.
like maybe life is too pleasurable, too going too well. He's the king of his own, reality, so to speak, where he doesn't want to submit to God, even if it's the Islamic version of God. He is his own God right now. And I think that's going to have to die before he can consider anything else.
That's true. That is true, because me and you had to go through that. We say this all the time. We used to be atheists. Like, we had to, whatever version we were, of ourselves that we valued so highly, that we did have to let that go to fully
Mm-hmm.
come over. And it's a very humbling experience too, because once you fully come in, like, you're gonna be crying like a baby. You're gonna be praying. You're gonna go through all the emotions like very fast.
Yeah, and it just wakes you up to the reality of how you used to think and how you used to, reason your justify your sins, justify your pride.
Yeah.
And I never saw that until I never saw that until I submitted myself to Christ, and that brought a level of maturity that I didn't see before. Now I can recognize some of those same patterns of thinking in people like Sneako.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I kind of feel for him, because it's not like, oh, Sneako, what an idiot. No, it's not like that. It's like I see a little bit of the wrong thinking that I had in you.
Yeah.
And it could be a really hard thing to shed if you're not ready to submit to Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's his struggle with Islam right now. He has to shed that fully before he submits to anybody, and until that date happens, it's not happening. So at the
Right.
end part where he was like, "You guys want me to go to an Islamic learning house? You want me to live in a mosque?" It's like, it would probably be very beneficial for you to do that, but you're definitely not doing it at this stage in your life. Like, that's never
Yeah.
happening.
I'm curious to see how this all plays out for him, because it seems like he's choosing a path right now, and you and I recognize, and some of our viewers recognize, this path as the path of pleasure, the path of self.
Yep.
Even though, I'd much rather him, come to grips with the reality of Christ and the liberty and the transformation that comes from following Christ. I just want to see him leave this path. Like, this
Yeah.
is a toxic path. You screwing porn stars and getting drunk all the time because you think alcohol is so fun. This is emptiness. It leads to nothing but darkness.
Yeah. So he'll hopefully he'll figure it out at some point. So all we can really do is, like we do with anybody else, we're gonna have to just pray for him. Cause I don't want to, like you said, I don't want to rip on him and make fun of him, because he's had a crazy year already, between like Muslims like from jump that didn't really believe him and been ripping on him since. Christians from jump that's just been like, you following Daddy Tate, like, you need to come over to Christianity. It's like, that's not going to get him over either. So like,
No.
you need to, he's had a rough year
I
leading
think
up to all of this.
I think none of that is going to help him when it comes to, like, what he would really benefit a lot from is Christians in his world just shining God's light, not through, hey, Bible verses, hey, this and that, like, come to church. Here's a gospel tract. I don't think any of that is what will resonate more than just being there when it gets hard, or being there and showing love even when it's hard to. Because I would imagine he's probably, just looking from it from the outside, from this one interaction, he's probably not super nice to Christians. But loving him through that, I think that is the most powerful evangelism that could be had for Sneako, would be to be a light in his life anyway,
Yeah. That means he would need some good Christians in his life. Because I remember when he was working on the Kanye campaign, which I think that was last year, I think. And it's messed up too, because Kanye was still a baby in his faith, because at that point he still hadn't read the Bible and stuff, despite all the Sunday service music and performances and whatnot. I think he had the wrong Christians around him, because you had Nick Fuentes, who's I don't think he properly practices anything, but he calls himself a Catholic. Then you had Milo, who was like, I guess he was gay, but then he said he wasn't gay. But then he said Nick Fuentes was also gay, doing stuff with I don't know any of that, but it just seems so drama filled. But then you have like Sneako and Kanye, who are kind of just like these babies in both of their faith, that's probably looking at these two people like, it would be nice to like probably fully lean on you for any type of understanding. It's just garbage. Like, it doesn't seem like there's any good people. Because Sneako did say something recently in a stream where he said he's tired of having fake people around him and he wish he had real friends. And that speaks volumes on like any level, because that means there's a lot of just like probably people around him just because like for clout and name factor alone, maybe yes men and stuff. Because I'm pretty sure that's the same type of people around Kanye too. And that's probably why he struggles a lot with bouncing in and out of the world, living on the fence. So I'm pretty sure Sneako is probably just that whole frustrated rant. That's probably really all it is.
Yeah, that's why the verse that comes to mind is the one that talks about, essentially that it's really hard for a rich man to get into heaven.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of reminds me of that verse, because it's like, well, obviously he's got money, I would imagine. I don't know much about this guy, but yeah.
No,
so he's got money.
Yeah.
He's got money. He's got fame. And with that comes a lot of obstacles to keep you from Jesus.
Yeah.
To harden your heart and to, foster pride and put people in your path who just help you stumble.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. All right. We'll pray for him, and hopefully, like you said, we'll keep following the journey, see what happens from here further down the line. But moving on from Sneako, we're gonna have to talk about Pearly things. For those that don't know, and it's funny, I wanted to go second with Pearl just because her storyline on the things she talks about now is the things that Sneako originally started talking about once he first entered the Red Pill community. So it's the same, I swear, it's like almost the same talking points, almost, because she added the whole Christianity twist in there, where she's also like downing the Christians. But the whole, like, ever since she did that interview with Nick Fuentes and people were ripping her for it, and then she was like, okay, I'll just apologize. And then she realized apologizing means nothing to the people that don't like him. So it's like, well, what did I apologize for if you're going to keep ripping on me? And then she went this way, right? Ever since then, we've been seeing her follow Sneako's same trajectory path in the Red Pill lane. For those that have no idea, let me find a good... Here we go. We'll start with this clip. You'll see Pearl is wearing like a Women Shouldn't Vote shirt. That's like her latest t-shirt line she's trying to
oh my goodness,
sell off. But in this clip, she's talking about what she calls modern day Christianity, and And she's actually talking to a Christian. This guy's been a Christian, he said, for like a little over a year. And I just want to share like maybe a few seconds of what she has to say with this guy, because it makes no sense.
Like, no, seriously, right? Because in history, 100 years ago, 85% of women were virgins because the men said, we are only marrying virgins. Women act better when men demand more.
Can I flip the table on you? Are you a virgin?
No, I don't deserve marriage.
Do you really believe that?
I really do. I think that marriage is between two virgins.
So are you married?
No, I'm not. And I think I really do think there's consequences for decisions. And I think the problem we have in society, every problem we have in society is linked to multiple sexual partners for women. Every problem. Homeless is linked to single mothers. Single mothers tend to be. Yep. More likely than not.
Okay, we're gonna.
Oh man,
that went slightly longer than I wanted it to, but we'll end it right there real quick.
her theology is all over the place.
Yes,
I
it is.
like that she, at least in this clip, I like that she is holding marriage on a high pedestal.
Yeah,
but
nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. Of course, the virgin thing just shows the fact, like, ideally, yes, in an ideal world, that would be the case.
Yeah.
We don't live in that world. So is her answer then that no one should be married if they ever made a mistake before marriage, including her, which she admits?
Yeah, that was kind of wild. I mean, at least her line of thinking, at least she fell in line with her answer on that.
But if this is all for the betterment of society, I think more marriages would be better for society as opposed to not, because marriage is the building block of society, the mother, the father, the kids. And so if you have less marriages because there's such a low number of virgins out there, is that really better for society? I don't think so.
No, well, here's the thing with the virgin comment, because there's another. Here it is. I'm gonna share this. She said something else in terms of that, which doesn't make sense. Here it is. She said, I have had men tell me their virgin wife was worse because of the church brainwashing. Imagine that. It's like, so then what is your argument for virgins then? Because apparently marriage only makes sense if the woman is a virgin. But then you're just like, oh, I also had guys tell me their virgin wife was worse because of the church brainwashing. It's like, but what?
And that's a recent, that was 2 days ago.
Yeah. That's why it's confusing, because I think the video clip went up. Yeah, it went up on the 3rd, and then this went up on the 4th.
I don't get it. I don't get it. And
I don't get it
my thing
either.
is, like everything about that video, I watched the pool video that you sent, and a lot of it was like a lack of forgiveness. People don't deserve forgiveness because man doesn't have to forgive. God can forgive. And, people who had sex before marriage, they don't deserve it. They can't be forgiven. And the guy in the video was so graceful.
Yeah.
That is a great representation of Christianity, how that man handled this conversation.
Yeah.
And he was just like, I disagree with you. He didn't get angry, didn't raise his voice. He was very calm, so kudos to that guy, because that was a really frustrating conversation to witness, and it just shows her misunderstanding of what it means to be a Christian. It
does, because she herself, so according to Pearl, these are her words, she went to Catholic school, which honestly means nothing, because how many people went to Catholic school and don't know the Bible? So that means nothing. She said she did go to church up until she got to England because of, her volleyball career. And then she tapes on Saturday nights. So because they tape so late, she's like, I'm not getting up early to go to church. So she stopped going to church. But when you listen to her knowledge of the Bible, she knows nothing. So it's just kind of like, were you just there to be there? Were you not paying attention? Because to be real with you, I've noticed that at my church. I go to a pretty early service, but there was a week we kind of had to go later because my husband's baptism class was at the it was like at the 11:30 service. It ran at the same time. So I'm like, okay, I might as well go to the service while you're in the class since it's so far from our house. It doesn't make sense to do 2 trips out here. And I noticed in that later service, so many people were not paying attention. They were playing on their phones. The people straight up next to me, they were talking about what they was about to order for lunch the whole service. And I'm just like, and I'm thinking to myself, like, why are any of you here? I don't really notice that too much when I go to like the earlier morning service because there's not a lot of people there to begin with. But that later one, that kind of like her thinking, she has to be one of those people that's just like, well, I went to church. I go
tick
there.
the box, you know.
Yeah, it's like, well, I went. So like you can't tell me I was at church on Sunday. Because I think even in that clip or another one, she talks about like, I do go to church. And they'll tell you that there's these women at the church that blah, 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 blah. And you're just like, is that what you go there for like the gossip factor or to see what people's like pasts are? Because you're missing the whole point.
Yeah, honestly. Oh, yeah. And there's another one. I don't know if you have it to play, but there's another one where she was trying to make a point about males and adultery and started to talk biblical stuff, and her theology was crazy. Do you have that clip?
I think I have it from the What Do You Meme video.
We're not done because next she brings in the Bible in support of her arguments.
But didn't that Solomon guy have like 1 million wives? And I know Jesus, I think, condemned that. Or there was the one guy that married like the old woman and then had like Cain and Abel, I think. Whatever.
That old guy that married and had Cain and Abel was Adam. Adam is in Adam and Eve.
Now, I grew up Catholic. I did 12 years of Catholic school.
5 minutes later.
The old woman and then had like Cain and Abel, I think. Whatever. But I know, and Jesus like did say that was wrong, I think. Anyway, so I'm sorry if I'm butchering this. The religious people get so heated that it's tough to have these convos because if you get one part wrong, they're like, ah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is not me being heated, but that was insufferable because she talks from a place of like authority, right? She's an influencer. She has millions of followers, and she's trying to push her views on morality and how to make a better society, right?
Yeah.
So you are apt for criticism, especially when you talk about things that you so clearly have limited knowledge on. And look, you don't have to be a Bible scholar, but you're trying to justify. In this clip, the context is she's trying to justify that it's okay for men to cheat on their wives, but it's not okay for women to be adulterous when they have social media accounts because that's seeking male attention. That was her argument. I'm pretty sure in that video.
That was. Yeah.
So she's trying to use scripture to prove a point about her view. And she's totally butchering it, but us religious people, we're the crazy ones. We get all crazy about it.
So I will give her this. Like sometimes people go overboard if you butcher a verse or don't get it correctly. However, in her case, you can't start out saying, I went to Catholic school for 12 years and then right after that, butcher everything. Because people are going to look at you a little sideways because we know what it is. So we're just like, girl, you didn't learn nothing in Catholic school. Right? And then you're going to probably have like the unbelievers that see that and just be like, she don't sound too confident in what she's saying right now. That's how that comes off, and it's like you're gonna get kind of roasted for saying that because you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's pretty evident from that. And just
Yeah.
her entire, so for anyone who hasn't picked up on it in this video thus far, she is one of the leading influencers of the so-called red pill community that Sneako came from, too, that Andrew Tate kind of had a part in. I don't know if he still would consider himself red pill, but
I think he left, which is
yeah.
probably why Sneako left.
Yeah. So a lot of these guys, they don't have they're great at identifying an issue with our current liberal society, our current post-Christian society that is full of debauchery, that's full of strife between men and women, and feminism, which has been pretty bad on marriages and families. And I get it, right? I get it.
Yeah.
It's been horrible for men.
Yeah.
But the answer is not the red pills answer, because they just are kind of women haters, honestly. And Pearl is one of the biggest women haters that are on the internet right now.
Which is also interesting because in the red pill community, you're supposed to, as a man, you're supposed to get all this advice from a man. So when they talk about like women are only meant for X, Y, and Z and blah blah blah, Pearl's position of authority in that shouldn't really be like, she technically shouldn't even be red pill. She should technically, it would make more sense for her to be in the pink pill community, if that makes any sense. But like she shouldn't even be in red pill. Red pill is technically for men. It's supposed to be men talking to men. So it's already weird that she's like a top red pill content creator as a woman. That doesn't make sense to begin with. And also, when I see her make posts like this, when you were talking about the cheating, right? When she says like men could cheat and do whatever they want, because it's a guy, it's very different from a woman, but a woman needs to be a virgin. And then she also says stuff like this, where she says, "I'm so exhausted of beta men bringing up that men sleep around, cheat. It's so exasperating. It's not the same. If you continue to act like it is, completely derails the point of the conversation." It's like, it is the same. It doesn't matter who cheats. Cheating is cheating. Like your average person, I don't know if it's just all these internet people don't touch grass or whatever, but in the real world, it don't matter who you are. If your partner cheats on you, that's a scar. Like trust is broken. There's a scar now on your heart. It's a lot of issues. It don't matter, man, woman, alien, dog, cat. Like you're gonna have some problems with that. And
yeah, for sure.
Red pill talking points is that like everything is so different because they're just like, oh, a woman sleeping around is not the same as a man sleeping around, because any key that can open up any lock is different from having a master key, something like that. That's like their main talking point. It's like, you guys say this until you get cheated on. It's probably gonna be a whole different story for all y'all, because she says it a lot. So, because we already know she's like, oh, like if you by 25, if you're not married, it's a wrap. If you're not a virgin, it's a wrap, and blah blah blah. And then she also mentions like men are allowed to cheat. It's like, but Pearl, would you allow your man to cheat on you? I don't think you would.
Yeah, just everything. Everything. Like, it's the arguments that she makes are the soft bigotry of low expectations, which usually is a term that's thrown around for when white liberals say that black people need to think a certain way, or they're they're token if they vote Republican or something like that, whatever, if they're conservative. And it kind of applies to this conversation between men and women too, where you think that the standards need to be lowered for them because you really don't think they can do it. Same thing, like the white liberals underestimating Black people. So, oh, well, you know, poor Black people need us. Oh, poor Black people. And over here, like, oh, man, they can help themselves. They just are going to cheat. Like, it's okay. Why are you getting mad about it? It's almost the same thing, the soft bigotry of low expectations. You don't think very highly of men, Pearl, do you?
Yeah,
Like,
'cause
they can control themselves.
they can. There's a lot of my friend group of guys, funny enough, never cheated on any woman they were ever with. However, they all have experienced being cheated on at least once by some girl in their past. And that didn't lead them to be like, oh yeah, I'm a cheat. And I understand somebody's red pill community's probably run across this, or a Pearl or Sneako fan, and be like, they're betas. It's like, they're not. They're actual real men. They're all married now. They are the protectors and providers of their homes. Like, they know what it is. It's like, but you can't have those low expectations and be like, every man does it. It's like, every man does not do it.
Yeah, and my thing is, okay, so like, who cares what Pearl thinks? Who cares what Sneako thinks? Who are these foolish people? And I mean that not in a really snobby way, but they are being foolish and they have a really large platform. The problem is, because they have so much influence, people take them serious.
Yeah.
And you have, you know, when it comes to like people like Sneako, young men, like very young teenagers looking up to him, trying to emulate that lifestyle because he's so famous and he's so well known to them. You see the same thing with Andrew Tate. When it comes to Pearl, you see desperate men, or at least frustrated men, gravitate towards someone like her who has an opportunity to spread her foolishness around into the hearts of people who will soak it up. And that's why, even though it's kind of like, okay, well, they're dumb, but we have to speak against the ideas and flesh them out, because people are listening to these people. And at least what we're doing here is trying to combat the falsities.
Yeah.
And just get people to think a little sharper about them. So when you do hear a Pearl video and it sounds kind of right, you're equipped, you know?
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, like I said, red pill, some stuff does make sense. Everything does not make sense, right? But we're able to discern and break all that down. Any of these content creators, Pearl, Sneako, Andrew Tate, I'll even hop on the left side of the fence, Destiny and all of them. Every once in a while, they do say something that's correct, right? Not to discredit them fully, but a lot of stuff they say though is pretty like nonsensical, and it's just one of those things. I think you have to take these people for what it is. This is entertainment. And honestly, that's why I still watch some of these people sometimes. It's just entertainment. I know not to take them super serious, because I used to watch Kevin Samuels before he passed away. Like, honestly, if you're trying to figure out your life, like before he would take the phone calls with the women, like, well, we actually were watching him well before he talked to women. He used to talk to men starting out, and a lot of people don't know that. But when we used to watch him, it's like, yeah, after a few episodes, you get his little life advice. You're good. You don't really need to watch him anymore after that. You watch him for the entertainment factor, because when those women would call in, that was the best part of the show. Because you heard hilarious. The craziest stories and stuff, and the way he used to talk to some of them. But you don't sit there and you'd be like, yeah, that's how it is, and I'm gonna view all women like that. It's like, no, just because this crazy woman called in, and you can look at her situation this way, all women aren't like this.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's where things become kind of dangerous, because the way that the internet is set up, or at least the YouTube algorithm, is that the more you watch it, the more it gets suggested to you. So by the way, watch this podcast more. Anyway, but you know, after a while, months and months and months of these ideas being, just normalized. It's kind of like you might not realize that maybe you see some woman out there and you insta judge her, like, oh, she's probably one of these people off of, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that Pearl talks about. You might not even consciously think that, but you might assume things because you start to develop a worldview around what you intake.
That's true.
So the more content that they put out that you consume, even if you're skeptical, and that's okay to be skeptical, it's okay to listen to them as long as you're like you said, taking it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But this is coming from a perspective of, we're older now and we had time to formulate our worldview so that, a lot of this stuff bounces off. Not everybody can say the same, though.
That's true.
Especially when you're younger and maybe young adulthood, 19, 20, and something goes wrong in a relationship and Pearl's telling you, women, they're such whores, Yeah, I think there's people out there that'll take that seriously.
That is true. Because you are more impressionable the younger you are. Now, you would hope as you grow older, you would grow out all that, but we're just gonna focus on the younger crowd right now, because I do know some older people who still had that same mentality, or they just did not grow up. But I could see that. I could see like a 19, 20-year-old saying like, if you don't get married by 25 and be a virgin, it's over, especially for women. And then she has this one tweet here. Here, I'll pull it up, because this actually kind of goes into what I was about to say. Even something like this: women want all the benefits of traditionalism, but get married over 25. The ship has sailed. Real trad women marry at 22. If you are a 19-year-old girl that just don't know, you might be like, oh, I got 3 years. I got 3 years to figure it out and get it together. I got to stay a virgin and stuff, which nothing wrong with staying a virgin, right? If you could do it, right? But once again, we're Christians. I understand everybody has a past, right? She makes it seem like every woman in the church just like all got bodies. like we all then been doing some porn star level type stuff at some point in our lives. And it's just like, that's not the women in the church. You might have some women that did it, but you can't group us all together. We all didn't do that.
Yeah, and the generalizations about women that she makes they're very difficult to listen to, because it's just like, seriously, you have that low of a view of women that you will just generalize everyone, including yourself. You fall in this category.
Yeah.
It's just so really like,
because my thing is, because somebody must have called her out. That first video clip I showed you of her talking to the Christian guy, somebody must have called her out on it, because they're just like, you're 26, you're not married, you don't have a family, and you're not a virgin, right? So her whole thing was just like, just because I didn't pass all these things, don't shoot the messenger, like my message still stands. And then I think after that, a while after that, it was just kind of like, oh, what I'm saying is that doesn't mean no woman can't get married over 25. It just means all the best ones, and it's like, so you're not the best one. What is your game plan here? Because like, do you want to get married at some point? Do you want to have a family? Also, what type of guy are you looking for? Because you condone cheating a lot for men. Would you be okay if like your guy does that? Especially when she talks about marriages and she's just like, oh, if you're married and he cheats on you a couple times over 20 years, like that's okay. Versus like, if he's sleeping with women all the time prior to marriage, it's like, is that like you cool with him cheating on you in the marriage? That's kind of crazy.
It depends on how you it depends on how you define high value man. She likes to use that term a lot. A lot of the red pillars use that term.
Yeah.
And when they define high value man, it has to do with how fit they are, how good they are in business, and how they treat women and how many bodies they can get.
Which is
And
weird.
which is weird, and that is not how a godly man
Handles
becomes
himself.
or becomes high value. I would not use the same definition for high value man as Pearl would use. So it's kind of like, I mean, I guess if she feels like she wants to marry a high value man, as she defines it, that she has to put up with, what do they do when they're high value? They have a lot of partners and they cheat on their wives. And what did you do to, contribute? That's something else she argues. If a man does cheat, it's the woman's fault. Maybe she gained weight. Maybe she wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or,
Mentions that a lot.
clean up enough or whatever. It's
But
always
it's
the woman's fault.
interesting. Yeah, the way she paints it, yeah. It's always a woman's fault. But another thing that got me confused, she has an interview where somebody asked her, like, what type of guy would she get with? Like, how much does he have to make yearly? And I think she said like 60 or 70,000 or something, which would not be a high value man by like their definitional standards. So it's like, it sounds like you want a pretty like slightly above average guy money wise. So, but you also think all men cheat. So would he still, because you would be the breadwinner in this situation, would still be cool if he went out and cheated on you because you're the, because he's a
You're the
guy.
woman. Yeah.
You're the woman. Like that, I'm sorry, that logic and thinking just doesn't make sense to me in the slightest.
And that's what I said earlier about Proverbs. Oh, this was off camera.
This is off camera.
Yeah. Okay. So, something about fools. It's in there. Look it up, I guess. Right. But every time I hear some of the arguments she makes, I'm like, oh, I know there's a proverb for that somewhere.
It is. I think honestly, I think she needs to be more well versed in Christianity if she's gonna talk about it and down it so hard all the time. Because she really does need a better understanding of it. That's like me crapping. At least when we did the yoga episode, we were very honest. We were like, we don't know much about Hinduism. This is what we read about it. If you're Hindu, you want to come in, correct us, feel free, right? Even this episode, you were like, I'm not well versed on the Islamic faith, which is fair. I'm not either. I haven't read the whole Quran. I know bits and pieces of things. So that's how we were able to have the conversation. And I think on my channel before, I had like a few Muslims come by and be like, oh, I could teach you some things, or this is what this means, and blah, blah, blah. And there was like no negative energy between us. She just came out the gate, like just boom, like, just on Christians and taking them out and knows nothing about it. It's like, bruh, you wonder why you're getting the backlash you get. You probably should be more well versed in that, or at least know a little something.
People who profess to be wise often are fools. And that's kind of what I'm seeing with her. She thinks she's a lot smarter than she really is. And I know that sounds not very nice, but it's kind of
the
true.
Truth. It's the truth, though. Yeah. Because she says a lot of off things about everything. And I know Red Pill does like to have the marriage statistics about divorce and everything. But something they fail to realize, there's also statistics for religious couples who are married. And the marriage rates are actually way higher if you are practicing a religion and not just religion in name only. And that goes for all the religions that they studied, which was Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. So out of studying those three in a large sample size of couples from those three, practicing religious couples from any of those usually stayed married. It was like a very small percentage got divorced. And that's through all the income tax brackets that they like to talk about. When they're just like, oh, if you're down here, the divorce rates are like 50% or 40, whatever it is, right? And then you make more money, it goes down a little bit, and then it goes up a little bit, and then it goes down. You don't have that with religious couples.
Yeah, definitely. And there might be something to that, Pearl.
Yeah. Because it's a lot, you know.
A godly man marrying a godly woman, it really does make a difference, especially in the long term, because marriage is a lifetime vow. And currently our culture doesn't treat it that way.
Not at all.
And especially if someone like Pearl is out here whispering to men about how they can cheat, that's definitely not going to contribute to a godly marriage, one that lasts through the test of time. So I really hope that she changes her tune on things because of her influence, or, gosh, I just pray that the people listening just kind of wake up. If she's not going to wake up, I hope the people listening to her do.
Yeah, definitely, because there's a lot of misinformation she says. Like when she talks about submission, she's like, "Oh, you women want your men to like you can't submit to your man, but you want him to submit to God and blah blah blah." And it's just like, I mean, he should be like, like technically, if I'm supposed to he's supposed to submit to God first before I fall in line to submit to him. That's how it works. If you read the Bible, like God's supposed to be number one in our household.
Well, did she read the Bible?
No.
I don't think so. Just from her comments of who was the Adam and Eve thing? Cain.
That was
Solomon. Solomon had Cain or something.
When she mentioned Cain had a bunch of wives. I mean, Cain had a bunch of wives. Solomon had a bunch of wives when she said that. And you know what? She sounds just like the people when I did a video about that like last year in October or something. And I had a lot of people get mad in my comment section because it was about polygamy. And that was like their main thing. They're just like, polygamy's allowed because Solomon had like all these wives and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, if you guys actually read his story and understood how that was his ultimate downfall, I feel like all you guys are so worried about is that he had all these women. That wasn't a good time for him. Like they literally led him into ruin and destruction. They had him worshiping other gods, giving his money up. Like Mans was not in a good state of mind or anything. Like he wrecked himself having all those women.
Exactly. Yeah, they're kind of missing the point on that one.
Yeah, it's like if you actually read the story, you would understand that. And the fact that I understood that was like very early on in my journey. And I'm like, if I can understand this, I don't know why y'all not understand this. I feel like you guys just want an excuse to bang a lot of women.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, that is what it sounds. All right, guys. We're about to hop into comments, but before we do, let us know what you guys think about Sneako and Pearl, or either or, it doesn't matter. Let us know in the comment section down below, and maybe we will read your comment on next week's episode. All right, guys. So before we end the podcast, we're going to go over 5 comments really quick. All of these are from last week's podcast where we were talking about if yoga is something that Christians could do or not. Our very first comment is from Macintoshi Man, Iman. I apologize if I butchered your username. They said avoiding yoga because of religious beliefs is an act of legalism and or self-righteousness. Bringing the mind and body into peace and coherence is a great idea for everyone and isn't evil in the slightest. I just know my health is much better since I started yoga and have even experienced what some might call a miracle firsthand. Apart from superstition, yoga is about uniting your unconscious and conscious mind. Some call this union with God, but I get the same effect when I'm lifting weights.
Okay. That's all over the place. All right, well, let's break it down. Avoiding yoga because of religious beliefs is an act of legalism or self-righteousness. Not really, though, because if one faith that you're following contradicts with another faith that's out there, and yoga is a spiritual practice of Hinduism. This is something we talked about, and we gave a lot of compelling arguments of why the practice of yoga, being a spiritual doctrine, of another religion is incompatible with the religion we're trying to talk about here, and follow ourselves, it's not legalism. That's just not practicing other spiritual disciplines. It's not about legalism.
Yeah.
And it's certainly not self-righteousness. Like, get over yourself, man. Anyway, bringing the mind and body into peace and coherence is a great idea for everyone and isn't evil in the slightest. It depends on how you're doing that. Because if you're uniting with a God who is not the one true God, and you're putting another God before the God Almighty, then yes, that is an evil practice. So whatever. What are you thinking about it? You with me on that saying?
I'm thinking the same things you're thinking, honestly. One thing that got me though, because I was technically gonna leave the comment alone, but one thing that got me was this part down here where it says, apart from superstition, yoga is about uniting your unconscious and conscious mind. And then he said, some call this union with God, but I get blah, blah, blah with lifting weights, right? But it's just this part, the unconscious and conscious mind, which is what we talked about last week, because all of that is to get you in line with, I think you said the God's name was like Brahma or something. That got me, because I was actually going to leave this comment alone. I was just going to be like, okay, you just like doing yoga. But I'm just like, nah, there's you missing it, right? And then I noticed they actually left more comments under other people's comments that did not agree with yoga. So I'm actually going to pull one of those replies up right now. All right, so this was under a comment that basically said, no, if you're Christian, you shouldn't do yoga. And they gave their reasoning why, right? Underneath that comment, the same person said, that's if the Hindus are correct. And yoga actually unites you with some force outside yourself. Personally, I think conscious and subconscious coherence is a better way to explain it. The spiritual ecstasy that comes with it, I've also achieved through intense exercise, playing music, or even participating in worship services. I really don't believe anything spiritual is going on with yoga. This threw me when I saw this comment, because you just said you experienced spiritual ecstasy, but then you go on to end it with, I don't think anything spiritual is going on. You also started it with, that's if the Hindus are correct and it actually unites you with some force outside yourself. They made it. So I would assume that they do believe that they are correct and that they are, because they created all of this.
Exactly. And yeah, he's totally contradicting himself, but also proving our point that it is a spiritual practice. You even said participating in worship services. I mean, this is inherently a spiritual practice. Of course, your last line makes absolutely no sense with everything else you said thus far.
Yeah, then that's what threw me off. That's why I ultimately ended up picking the comment, because I'm just like, this doesn't connect with the rest of this.
Look, man, if you want to do yoga, it's fine. I would just say that if you also want to be a follower of Jesus Christ, those two things might not be compatible. And there's a lot of good reason for that. And I know not everyone agrees with that, but I wouldn't say it's legalism.
Yeah, I think last week when we were talking about it, because we're just like, I think the way we ended it, we're like, if that's something you do want to do, maybe use some discernment on whatever you're doing. Because we did end up reading Tyree's comment where it sounded like whatever she was doing was just like stretching, but they just called it, they call it like pop yoga, if I'm remembering correctly. So
yeah,
maybe just have better discernment on whatever you're doing. Outside of that, I mean, do you, but you trying to say it's not spiritual, but then you're making a lot of spiritual comments on what it does for you. It sounds spiritual.
Yeah, he's all over the place with his argument there.
Yeah. All right, our next comment is from user I'm not about to say all that. I don't know why it's not showing the name unless this is your name. Then boy, do you remember a lot when you log into YouTube. That's all I got to say. But they go on to say just because somebody has a religion, they think you have one. No, we don't have one. Hindu is a land. See, faith belongs to Abrahamic religion. We are not people of faith. We are land of seekers. And I'm not about to say the last part because I don't even know how to pronounce none of it. And also, you could be tricking me. It could be a curse. I'm not saying it. So I'm going to just say nom 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 like, like I do with the one video.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, obviously I know that some people don't have a religion and they practice yoga indiscriminately, but that doesn't mean it's not a spiritual practice. And Hinduism is indeed a religion. And no, faith does not only belong to Abrahamic religions. So what are you trying to say here?
Yeah, this is all over the place. This is this is all over. Maybe you're just what's it called, like a yogi? Maybe you're just someone that really likes yoga. And you're like, well, I'm not Hindu. Okay. That's between, like, once again, discernment. That's between you and your body and your spiritualness, right? But the whole Hinduism land, you threw me off again. Because that Hinduism is definitely a religion. It's one of the top 3. I think we looked it up too just to make sure. But top 4, if you want to count like actual non-religions as number 3, but if not, Hindu's actually number 3. So I don't know. All right, next one's from Jorge. Y'all know we put his comments up all the time. Jorge says, no Christian should practice yoga at all. First of all, yoga means to be yoked, but they're not talking about being yoked to Christ. I love the fact that you mentioned Trunk or Treat. Catholic Talk Show mentioned that in their Halloween podcast. Dressing up like dirty nuns in mini skirts is not acceptable.
Okay, so I think we agree with you this time, Jorge.
About Halloween and stuff.
It seems like we're always in disagreement with Jorge these days, but that's all right. Yes, dressing up like dirty nuns is not acceptable. I totally said that wrong. Dirty nuns in miniskirts is not acceptable for Halloween practice, I think. If you're trying to live a holy lifestyle, of course.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with trunk or treat. And I'm going backwards on this comment, but yes, yoga means to be yoked. So yeah, all of the people out here who feel like you can do yoga, like actual yoga, not like praise moves kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
But just legit yoga and be Christian and like really legit follow Christ and like your body, which is the temple of the Holy Spirit. And it is to be presented as a living sacrifice. If you're doing this practice that literally means to be yoked and it's talking about a supreme conscious, I don't think those things are compatible. Yeah. That's just my personal conviction on it, of course. Like we said, discernment.
Yeah. I'm with you. Because like I said last week, never had a connection to yoga to begin with. And as a Christian, I still don't feel a connection to it. Don't feel like I should be doing it. So that's my discernment talking.
That's where I'm at too.
All right, our next comment is from Tyre. She said, great video. Thank you for taking the time to review my comment and take the words in consideration. I certainly am not interested in telling my fellow brothers and sisters in Christ they have to make a choice. Fortunately, we have the word, prayer, and the Holy Spirit. All of this here to help us build a relationship with our Lord. Also, my father passed recently. I've learned wonderful stories of things he has done. My little sister went out trick-or-treating and would be handing out small Christian comic tracts that he and others created. That's actually kind of cool.
I'm sorry about your loss. I bet that's really difficult for you right now. And
Yeah.
Our thoughts and prayers are with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got the memories, and that's lovely.
Yeah. That's what matters in the end. You got all the good memories to hold on to. All right, and last comment of the day is from 3Poodles321, who we haven't seen comment in a while. I'm pretty sure we haven't seen this person comment in a while. But they said yoga is incompatible with Christianity because the best known practice of Hindu spirituality is yoga. Inner Hinduism professes pantheism, which denies that there is only one infinite being who created the world out of nothing.
Facts.
3Poodles came straight in and was like, no, that's not for us.
Well, I agree. I agree. Like, you can't divorce yoga and Hinduism. You just can't do that. So if you're okay with practicing in Hindu religion, I don't know. I guess you do you. I'm not trying to be legalistic here. I just think that you're right, 3Poodles. It is incompatible.
Yeah.
But you could always do praise moves, or you could always do regular stretches. It doesn't have to be yoga.
Yeah. I think that's also when we were talking about can you reclaim it and make it your own for Christianity, which is how we got to praise moves. And somebody else in the comment section mentioned another content creator that's Christian that kind of does it. What's the name? Caitlin Engelbert. Apparently, at one point, she's Christian, and at one point, she was pregnant as well. So she was trying to figure out how to also do proper stretching without doing yoga. So she created her own YouTube with video series and stuff for that. So maybe check her out as well, because it does sound like we can reclaim certain stretches and stuff for our own, or make new stretches, I guess, because that's technically what it is. But it does sound like we can do the whole reclaim aspect of it.
Yeah, or not even reclaim. I don't know. Reclaiming versus just creating a new stretching routine. There's nothing wrong with having a stretching routine at all.
Yeah.
Nothing inherently wrong about it. Yoga is a spiritual practice. Yes, yoga is the spiritual issue here. So yeah, do anything. You can do anything. And you can even do yoga. Don't misunderstand me. I would just proceed with caution, I guess.
Yeah. Like I said, use discernment. Use that discernment you got to see if it's good for you. If you feel like you cool with it, go ahead. Do what you got to do. Over here, we not doing that.
Nope.
All right, before we end it out real quick, just because I don't want to add everybody's comments. That would have been overwhelming. But somebody did saying, when are you coming back? I'm going to be so real with you. I'm probably not live streaming anymore while pregnant. It just kind of is what it is. I do have a video coming soon. We'll just say it like that. I don't know the date, but we'll just do videos moving forward. It's going to be slow going on my end. It just is what it is. And then everybody that says they miss me and congratulations on the baby, thank y'all. I appreciate y'all. And also, Jorge said also congratulations on Kyle. Him and his wife just had their baby too.
Yes.
Yeah. Little
so
baby
awesome.
Ignatius.
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations to Kyle. But with that said, we're going to go ahead and get up out of here. So thank you for watching another episode of So This is the World Christian Podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Michelle. This was your other host, Jasmine. We thank you so much for joining us. Before you get out of here, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss when we drop a video. I know you guys are probably like, why did that video drop on Monday last week? I'm doing a quick test, like I said in our community notes. So on the channel. So this is probably going to drop on a Monday as well, as you're going to see on Monday. So I might have to put another community note out just so y'all not wondering why it's not there on Saturday. But with that said, Jasmine's back to making videos. So go ahead and head over to her channel. It's called Bold Reflections. Check it out. Basically, we're never going to forget.
Yes, and if you want to know what that little reference was, we went back in time, down memory lane to COVID panic 2020.
Yep.
So check out my video on that, and get ready to be frustrated.
Honestly, yes, because I'm just watching. I'm just like, oh, I can't believe they did all this. All right, once you're done on her channel, go over head to my channel. It's called It's Your Girl Saying. Check out all the videos, live streams, video game streams, whatever tickles your fancy, it's over there. All right, and with that said, we'll see you guys next time.